Welcome to A Dark Path, a podcast exploring the depths of witchcraft, magic, the occult, and all things mysterious. Join us on this journey into the unknown, down a dark path overgrown. Find spells and rituals, folklore and legends. Come, set your candles alight to clear your mind and unwind. Delve into the shadows to uncover a dark path.
Welcome back to A Dark Path, a podcast exploring the depths of witchcraft, magic, the occult, and all things mysterious.
I want to say the whole intro at the same time because I think that'd be so funny sometimes. I thought intrusive thoughts for so long and then they won out at the end.
I mean, sometimes intrusive thoughts are fun. I am Kristen Jackson, and spellcrafting can be as simple as wishing on a dandelion.
I'm Allyson Hemma-Romane, owner of Jupiter's Omens, and I really enjoy writing my own spells. I think it's fun.
I'm Heidi Stock, owner of Wise Wolfcraft, and I think almost any action could be spell work with the proper intention.
Almost any action?
I'll say most, just because, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Today, the three of us are deep diving into the relationship between intention setting and spell crafting, as well as how to craft your own spells. So, for definitions today, we wanted to use the ones that we regularly use. Why? For funsies. Also, these are pretty broad terms. You can kind of find a definition that fits any way that you want for these, I believe. For the point of the podcast, I think that using the definitions that we've agreed upon is helpful. Now, if you see them a different way, that's great. That's fine. Love that for you. Add us, right? And we'll talk about it. That sounds great. So, intention. I would say intention is the thing that you're wanting to achieve, right? Your goal that you have in mind. Anybody want to fight me?
No, I totally just pulled it up. Number 1, a thing intended, an aim or plan. Number 2, in medicine, the healing process of a wound.
Define, so spell crafting, creating a spell from scratch or heavily reworking somebody else's spell. And then we have spell casting, which is using someone else's pre-written spell, whereas spell work is just in general working a spell, like doing specifically a spell, trying to bring about your intention, right?
My personal thoughts are that they are really all one and the same thing. Spell casting, spell crafting, spell working, because some people can, I can see how some people can differentiate, like one is your own writing, one is taking something from something else or somewhere else. But to me, it's all the act of using everyday objects to be able to influence and uplift a spell. So whether it's words or if it's a really strict ritual or if it's from your, heart or if it's from somebody else that wrote something down, I feel like it's kind of all the same.
So when it comes to setting our intention in our own spell work and practices, what do we do? How do we do it? For me personally, I have a variety of methods. It kind of depends on if it's a short-term goal or a long-term goal, right? And if it's a short-term goal, I tend to have a quicker process. If it's a long-term goal, I'll have a more elaborate process to make a really well-developed, well-established intention. I would say in both cases, I usually write something out to help me think about what my intention really is. So I spend a bunch of time with my thoughts before I even get going. Because a lot of times for me, before I can really establish an intention, I have to figure out my motivation, because it's an elaborate part of like my intention. And then if I even want to do a spell, right? So as long as I've figured out my motivation and its proper motivation, I'll use a process like a sigil and power word. How would I choose a spell that I was going to use? How would I determine that? I will do just about any type of spell crafting for any type of need. I'm not super specific. I think I'm very big on intention setting, and it's like whatever feels right intuitively. So sometimes I'll use tools in a way that people might not traditionally think about using them. And when it comes down to creating a spell that we want to embody, release, or manifest, my process, like I said, it always involves writing. A lot of times it involves collecting a lot of my little things together because I'll like create, a lot of times I'll create an altar. A lot of times I'll create a kind of like a jar of things that I want to offer. There might be things that make me like, I don't know, sometimes I need tools, sometimes I need my shoes in a basket, sometimes I need to, like get the shower going, whatever.
I really feel like I am also along the lines of that, Heidi. Like a lot of my intention is like just sitting with it, thinking about it, trying to figure out like what is my intention? Because you could be like, I really want to bring more self-love and self-awareness, but what exactly is it that you're wanting or needing? Then from there, once you kind of dial it in, then I go into like, I'll often like if there's stuff that I'm thinking about and I'm thinking about doing a spell, I'll ask the universe for signs. Is this really what I'm looking for? If so, send me a sign. If I'm going about this in the right way, different kind of questions and kind of put that out there. And I'm a big pros and cons list person. So I like to write out like if I'm doing this spell, what's the outcome? What's the pros? What's the cons? And then I can kind of adjust it because like there's some cons that I really don't want. And so I make sure to adjust things and my intention and the spell to that. Typically, choosing the spell is intention based, whether I'm going to, fill up my bathtub and do something there, if I'm going to do something outside, if I'm going to. I also tend to kind of like, if it's more emotional, I kind of go more towards like water. If it's more financial, it's usually earth for me. Sometimes a little fire thrown in. So it kind of just also depends on the situation onto like how I always call it dialing in, like you dial it down into what it exactly needs to be. And then oftentimes if I'm really stuck or if I just have never tried something like that before, I'll go to like Pinterest or Reddit and find some other spells that people have done, different recommendations that people have, and then I'll just kind of adjust and change it to how it's going to actually work with what I'm wanting or with my intention. And then how do we create the spell we want to use to embody, release, or manifest our intention? I Again, it really comes down to what I want to do and what my intention is, but oftentimes it's kind of a blend of researching ingredients and what I'd want to put in with that spell, researching if there's a time of day, if there's a location, if I can just do it on the fly, or if I need to make like a big production out of it. And I really like to, when I can, blend art and intention. So if I could like Heidi said, if I can draw a sigil, if I really am like crazy and I'm like, I'm gonna just paint a picture or whatever, like, something that'll help, then I try to also do that as well because it brings more of myself into whatever I'm doing.
I love that. That's really cool.
This is kind of a really weird moment because usually I'm the one that is extremely thought out, and that's not the case. I totally go by my intuition. I totally choose to do things on the fly. I hone in on a singular intention intuitively, be it an attraction, a feeling, a phrase, a concept, or an emotion. And I like to focus on the emotion. I definitely bring it to the forefront because my craft is really focused on boosting intention through self-awareness and emotional like a mental health healing, right? So it's oftentimes totally intuitive. So where Heidi and Kristen are spending a lot of time with their thoughts and like sitting and thinking with it and researching and double checking, I usually don't think at all and go with my gut. And then I'll check myself later if I feel like it. So when people go, "Oh, why did you add this thing?" I go, "I don't know. I just did. Maybe because of this." I mean, like I know some of the correspondences, right? But like I usually don't think about it much at all. And then I often choose to use and create my own spell these days. In the beginning, I chose to use somebody else's because I had no idea what I was doing. Whereas now I choose to create my own and make it on the fly. Oftentimes, as I like the results a lot better, I'll just kind of like come up with words as I go along or actions as I go along. In the past, like I said, I use things made by other people, but I find that they kind of lack, I have here that I find they kind of lack soul for me now. I felt like that was a really good way of putting it when I was like prepping for this episode. It's kind of a problem that I run into kind of regularly in witchcraft and oftentimes poetry too, which is interesting, where things feel too like ethereal or out of reach when I prefer a very raw and emotional, like heart of the matter connection to it that eloquently resonates, which I feel is a very fancy and polite way of saying I would rather write it myself. So, yeah, that's in a nutshell what I do for intention and spell choice.
Well, and then like you really find that you bring more soul into it, but you're also bringing part of your soul into it, and it's kind of like
Yeah.
matching, and that's kind of like what you're saying. I'm hearing.
I feel like it's really important. Yeah. Even if the spell isn't for me to do, if Heidi comes to me and says, I need you to help me write a spell, right? If it's for her, but she's asking me to write it for her, or like feel like I have to give it everything that I have for it in order for it to be successful. Like I have to put as much energy as I'm willing to give to it. Because without it, I just don't, I think that it's not enough. I don't know. Does that make sense? Am I conveying that well? I don't know. Like it's
Yeah,
got to
no,
have that raw emotion. Yeah.
I think that the more of your own personal spice you can put into a spell, the better. It's just
Yeah.
going to make it your brand, right? And I feel like after hearing you say that, I almost feel like I actually fall somewhere in the middle because I tend to create a really elaborate ritual beforehand. But then when like I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna make a bath. And then when I do the bath, it'll be all intuitive what I put in. So it's kind of like a weird balance of both.
Books that I've had that are like 100 candle spells or like self-care spells, and even those still, I'm like, I'm not going to do that part, but I'm going to change it to this, or I'm going to skip that. But I also, one of the things that you said, like Allison, you were like, sometimes I just grab things and I know correspondences, but I don't necessarily, I just
I
grab
don't
it
think
and throw
about
it in,
them.
and that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
See, I'm the type of person, well, I will do that. I will do the spell. I'll throw something random in. Like I never use marjoram for anything, but today I did. And then I'll go back and then I'll be like, now I got to know what it is. So like I'll go back and then I'll research it after the spell's done and add that into my grimoire or whatever I'm using, my journal.
I love reading the herbs afterwards. So like when I first started doing my business, one of the things I would do is go to parties and have people choose their herbs for manifestation jars
So
intuitively.
fun.
And
Yeah.
then I would read the herbs for them. I'd say, okay, based on what you chose, this is what type of intention would work well with this jar. And that was actually such a cool process. And people would always, and with the big joke, we do the big like, what is it, Batman? It's not the jar you want, but it's the jar you need.
And there's a lot to be said about like, I don't know why, but I want this. Like you just get that draw, you just get that like, that's your intention, bruh. Just some basic step by step kind of how we craft our spells. Some days I'll like take a long time and write out a beautiful poem and I change it. Sometimes it's because, like, kind of like Allison was saying, it doesn't have enough soul in it. Most often, I don't rhyme things. Most often, there's a lot of cursing. It's really just putting my own personality into it. My step by step, let's say I figure out my intention, I figure out what I'm going to use, what tools, and I often go to the bathtub. The bathtub is like my place. I feel comfortable. The water's warm. It helps with my sensory processing issues, and I can kind of focus my brain a little bit more and then really feel what's happening like with my body instead of just feeling everything externally. And while I'm in there, I will have my spell set up. I'll have everything already ready. I'll light my candle. I'll do some meditation. And sometimes it's a bigger production than it is, and sometimes it's just like, light a candle. I feel better. Like it kind of just depends on what it is that's going on. A lot of it's going to be very personal to you, and a lot of it's going to be individual to the situation or the intention as well. It can be just as important and just as effective to do something small as it is to do something larger.
How I make my personal spells, like I said, is completely intuitively. I'll kind of like get the itch. So either I'll be like super emotional about something or I'll want something real bad. I guess that's also being super emotional about something. I'll have like the drive, right? I'll be like, either I want this thing real bad, I want this thing to go away, I want this change, I desire this thing for this person, I wish this thing for this person, something like that, you know? And then I'll think, damn, it's time for a spell. An example, like practical example would be in my business, my tarot card inspired spells. So like I base the whole concept around like my interpretation of a tarot card. I kind of got like a rhythm down that I love to do where I know that I'm casting something away or releasing something or expelling it as far as I can from my person or my mind or my soul. And that'll kind of be like the base for the building block for the spell. I choose the style of spell that matches the intention. Mine are very basic, as I found that this is what works best for me. The more elements that I add, the more convoluted it gets, and the more watered down I find that it is. So I found that for me specifically, there's a fine line between repeating my intention in a meaningful way and then also like convoluting or watering down the spell and overcomplicating it. I find that simple is best. For you, that might not be the case. But I think like, am I calling something to me or am I sending it away? So am I doing an attraction or slash manifestation or am I releasing slash exercising? And then I just kind of like build everything into those two categories. And then from there, I think what elements feel like the best vehicle for this spell to me. And I'll usually pick one as the main focus. And I do enjoy working with fire a lot, but I'll do fire or earth, water, or air. Practically, that looks like a candle spell or a bath or a biodegradable offering or a poem slash song. Okay. And then I think, should the spell be then kept when it's finished as a charm to remind me of my intention, which is a psychological trick, or do I need to dispose of it quickly, which spiritually would be an exorcism or a banishment, right? There's something that's really impacting me negatively, and I know that I want to get it as far away from me as possible, as fast as possible. So from there, the bulk of my spell creation is actually just writing it. I decide the order of events. But again, this is intuitive and it all happens very fast, right? I don't think too much about it, guys. I know that it's taking me longer to explain it than it does for me to actually write the majority of my spells. But sometimes I do like to take my sweet time and like make things that are very pretty for myself because I want it to be like full of soul and like full of heart. But I think about the order of events that I want things to happen in, the specific tools that I think would be good to have, different symbols and sigils, or the location that I think would be best for it, like Snoqualmie Falls or a big place for like trauma release, right? I then move into writing the verse and the poetry that I want to use. And it doesn't have to be super floral in order to be like a good poem. It just has to be something that makes you feel big things, right? And if it doesn't make you feel big things, then it's not going to resonate very deeply, which means your spell isn't as likely to have the reactions that you want, right? It's not going to do the things that you want if you're not having an emotional connection to it. I like to then consider spiritual presences that I want to use. And by that fancy language, I just mean, do I want my ancestry involved? Do I want the bear deity that I work with, RTO, involved? For the most part, the answer is kind of no. I usually just do stuff on my own, unless it's like a protection spell, then I'll ask for help, or a banishment spell, I'll ask for big help. Then I look at timing sometimes. Usually it's right the fuck now. Sometimes it's later. I look at general moon phases. So I'll move on to general astrological transits and how they're affecting my natal chart. And then I'll see what's happening and when the best timing would be in order to achieve the things I want. So I'll look oftentimes at Scorpio because I love good change, right? So I'll see like where Scorpio is going, and like this big Pluto transit has been a key one for me too. So yeah, just kind of like looking at key positionings in your natal chart. A reading will help you identify what's important for you specifically, and then taking note of how those planets are shifting will help you gauge like big timing moments for spells that are monumental for you.
I loved hearing that because it's so interesting how everybody does it and how different everybody is. Gosh, I don't know. I feel like I put spells together different ways at different times. The things that are usually the same as far as building the spell. As I said before, I spend quite a bit of time trying to develop my intention. And I actually, in truth, do about equal parts divination and spell work in general. Divination is a pretty big part of my spell working. I use divination to help me with divine timing, like Ali was talking about. I use divination to help me decide if my intention is set correctly, or if I need to be altering my language still. So some things there. And then, I don't think I do anything that reinvents the wheel as far as these ladies have said a lot of the things that I think. So something I could think of that is a little different, I feel like is sometimes I'm also drawn to like say things from the hip, especially like if I'm doing my day-to-day like spell work. So like and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I don't do that much spell work. And then I'm like, well, I guess I have like my day-to-day spells. But then I also have like big rituals and I save big rituals. I don't really do big rituals very often. And I almost do nothing in between. It's either like maintenance stuff, like protection magic, just set my shields for the day, cleansing myself when I'm in the shower, resetting myself energetically in the morning, calling in my energy at night, that kind of spell working. And then like divination almost daily, sometimes multiple times a day, depending on what's going on. But and then like I don't know like ritual baths and like ritual and then like a self-care can be very magical, so that kind of stuff tends to be I guess what I do the most. And then every once in a while I'll bust out a big ritual. Like two other thoughts on spell work while we're talking about it is one, like sometimes it can be really overwhelming. It can be really, I think my best magical stuff comes when I'm in flow and I feel good and everything feels intuitive and lines up, right? But that's sometimes is not the headspace we're in when we need magic. And so when it's overwhelming, that's when we've talked about this in different episodes. That's when I go to my grimoire. I tend to use that when it's hard for me to hear my intuition, when it's hard for me to know what I should do. I have it literally written down in a book so that I can look at it and go, this is what I should do. And then it gives me tools, even if I am feeling overwhelmed by the process. Literally broken up in my grimoire, like 10-second magic, 10-minute magic, 1 hour magic, right? And so it's like, if I need 10 seconds, I can go, okay, I gotta get grounded. I got 10 seconds. Flip to my book and go, here it is, because sometimes that's all the energy you have for spell work. So anyways, I guess long story short there, just you don't have to let it overwhelm you. Set your intention and speak your truth into existence. That's a very simple spell. It can be that simple and you can be done and have done something for yourself energetically.
But I didn't even think about that, like setting up yourself so that when you are overwhelmed and when you're like, I really want to do something, but I just like, I'm so frazzled. Oh, let me flip open my grimoire for like a 10-second spell. Like, that's such a smart idea to be able to organize it in that way. Like, not just for like creating a spell, casting a spell, but also to be able to kind of center yourself and like bring yourself back. Because I know when I get overwhelmed, and that's a great way is just to even just to be like, you know what? It's crazy. Let me go to my grimoire, my journal, and let me just open it up and find something. And it kind of takes that pressure off. So I think that's a really cool idea, and I'm probably gonna borrow it.
Yeah, me
Oh,
too.
please, yeah.
I heard it and I was like, oh, dang, that's really fucking intelligent. But I am running out of pages in mine, so I got to figure out what I'm cutting.
Ooh, that's fun though. I mean,
Is
add stuff.
it?
You start
That's
another book.
pressure.
Volume one, dog.
Start another book. Why do I only need one? Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah,
volumes. Yeah, man, we're
you can.
encyclopedias of knowledge, right? We're a whole library.
dang.
Yeah.
It actually, how it's set up is it's like grounding, and then it's 10-second magic, 10-minute magic, 1 hour day, like that kind of thing, right? But for me, it is easier to find the type of magic than how long I'm gonna do.
I wanted to comment on you saying about speaking from the hip because I do that a lot. Like sometimes I don't even write shit out. I just like today I did like a gratitude thing, a gratitude situation. I just like lit some incense and I was just like, thanks. I did patchouli, Heidi. Kristen,
My favorite.
I bought patchouli and she was like, of course you like patchouli.
I did say
It's one of my
that.
favorite scents. And Heidi was like, of course you like patchouli. Gets rid of everything. And I'm like,
Yes, you're
fuck
just
you.
really
No.
witchy. You're instinctually very witchy.
Is it dangerous to share your sigils and personal spells with others? I think the answer is no. That if somebody wants to do something to you, they're going to do it no matter what, and they don't need information to do it.
I don't think I can
And
argue that. I feel like it's totally okay to share sigils unless it's maybe something that's really, really special to you. Like, you can keep it to yourself, and that's fine. But I also do feel that if somebody wants to if somebody wants to spiritually or physically attack you, they're going to do it whether your door is locked or not. I feel that there's help and there's protection in those sigils, but I don't think that like sharing it's gonna put you out there in a negative way.
I think that it is probably person to person. If you feel like if people see it, it's going to be less effective or they're going to have access to you in a specific way, then that could be true for you. It doesn't resonate for me either, like what the gals are saying. But I, like anything else, I say listen to your intuition, you know. If it doesn't feel good, don't do it. But yeah, no, for me, I share with people. I've shown people plenty of things. I have a couple of messages on my fucking Instagram account. Like I truly don't care. But I don't but I respect a different opinion on it. You know, everybody's different.
My banishment spell at my store was originally my personal banishment spell. So, I mean, that's how that started. YOLO. Yeah. How do I know if I have the right intention for my spell? And then how do I know if my spell worked? How do I know if I have the right intention? It resonates with you. You feel something when you think about it. Feel something in your gut, I would imagine, in your heart, I would imagine. Probably not something negative. So, probably not something that makes you like something anxious or probably not something tense, right? Like it's going to feel like it's in alignment in some way. And if you're not super in tune with your body, that's okay. Maybe you feel a little bit tingly. Maybe you feel a little bit better at the idea of doing this spell with this intention, right? I would say that's a good benchmark, a good place to start. And then, how do I know if my spell worked? You get the thing that you were after, or and if that thing is like mental clarity or something, that's like peace or contentment is the word that Heidi likes.
So I generally feel like a lot of times two things line up for me. If I have the right intention, the spell works better, usually. Like sometimes that's the thing that's waiting for me. It's just waiting for me to get the intention right. For me, I describe that feeling as it always feels like an aha moment to me, or like I'm having an epiphany of some kind.
Dang,
Those
Heidi's
noises.
amazing. Yeah. Dang, I killed it. Hot dog.
Yeah, and then similarly, if the spell worked, I will see results, right? And then another thing for alignment and intention would be sometimes for me personally, if my intention is close but not quite right, that's kind of how the results turn out, is it'll be close to what I thought I wanted, but not exactly right. We were joking the other day when we were prepping for this episode, like that it's like the monkey's paw, but it's not quite that bad. It's not like I need money and then, like there's a car accident and I inherit money, right? It's more like, oh, I need money and then get scheduled extra work shifts instead of just finding $50, right? So like, but then for me, like the intention is actually stability, right? And so again, it's just about language for me. I do sometimes see that I'll go, I wonder if I'd been a little more clear about that. But that's another reason why I keep a journal so I can adjust my spells as I go and take notes and go, that worked, that didn't work.
So how do I know if I have the right intention? How does that intention make you feel? Does it make you feel more empowered? Does it make you feel sick? Does it make you feel comfortable? Does it make you feel, like what is that feeling? Because if you're coming from a point of anger, then it's going to make you feel a different way than if you're coming from a point of understanding or, trying to get a peaceful outcome. So I think that it really kind of comes down to your personal intention and then sometimes just sitting with it. It really just has to kind of just be what feels balanced within yourself. How do I know if my spell worked? I really can't say it any differently. I feel like if your spell worked, you're going to see results, whether it's small results or big, huge results. There's just going to be something that's putting you down that path and putting you closer to your goal of whatever you were intending.
What happens if I fucked up my spell? I don't know if it's possible to like totally fuck up your spell, is my answer. I don't know if I've actually ever done that.
I think
I
it
would
kind of
also
depends.
say,
What's your definition of fuck up?
Yeah,
yeah,
well, I guess like doing it like so badly that it doesn't work, I guess. I don't know.
but that's it. I feel like that's what happens is it doesn't work. Then nothing happens.
But then like it's like, okay, well if I do my spell in the wrong order, like it could still work. Or like if you didn't light
Yeah,
your
no, I
candle. I don't know, like I've completely forgotten to do pieces of a spell and like it still works. It's- That's
agree.
embarrassing.
I think you're 100% right on that because the thing is like we talked about, a spell can be as simple as just saying a word,
Right.
right? So as long as your intention is set, the rest of it's kind of just icing on the cake.
All the spells that I fucked up, I could learn something from. Like, oh, I put too many herbs on my candle and now I
No
have a
such thing.
giant fire.
No such
And
thing.
no, but that's what I'm saying is like now I have a giant fire, but guess what? I can now scry because that's a huge flame for me to look into, and that's telling me something.
It's a slight hazard, Kristen, but that's
Yeah,
a
I'd
win.
probably be like running myself outside and being like, and then I'd be like, okay, now that we're like safe. So, I mean, even if I'm like, oh, I was supposed to put lavender in this and I completely forgot, maybe it didn't actually need lavender in the first place. There was enough of everything else. So, I almost link that with my intention and with, the universe kind of helping guide my hand, I guess. I don't feel like it has to be step one, do this. Step two, do this. And if you don't do step two before step three,
Get
you're
fucked.
calling in, yeah, you're
No
calling in
profit.
bad juju. I don't feel that. Like, I don't think that's how it goes. But if you fuck up your spell, I mean, if you just try it again, do it differently, do it the way that you wanted to in the first place. There's nothing wrong with going back and starting over or doing it on a different day.
Do I have to be in a certain state of mind to do spell work? To this, I say yes and no. In general, my advice is respond, do not react.
Maybe like setting boundaries through spell work.
Or like, something to boost your own self-awareness and your own self-confidence instead of wishing somebody else harm, right? Would be my suggestion. But do what works for you at the same time. Just make sure that it's a response and not an immediate reaction, right? Because we tend to do stuff that we regret when we come out of an emotional reaction rather than a logical response.
I feel like that's a very good thing because there are small, quick, simple spells that you can do in a situation where you're feeling reactive. But that's stuff that I would do more of breath work. I would do stuff to kind of help me center more myself than like trying to get back at a person, but that's my personality. I'm not, if I want to get back at you, it's going to be like, I'm going to take a while to figure that out. But anyways, that's some of my deviousness coming through. Do you have to be in a certain state of mind? I would say yes, because if I am so overwhelmed, I might need to sit with certain things, write my head and figure stuff out. And that also kind of goes with what Allison was saying, like reacting versus responding. So yes, I do think that there is a right frame of mind and a wrong frame of mind, but then at the same time, in the same breath, no, because you don't have to feel good with yourself or the situation to try and make it better.
So I would say I agree with both of you guys. Sorry, that's not very interesting, but like, I think that, okay, about the state of mind. Okay, so my thought about that is that I just have certain types of magic I do in certain types of state of mind, right? So like, and I think that's kind of what you guys were saying too, in a way. So it's like if I'm feeling hurt by somebody and I feel like angry and hurt or upset or whatever, I tend to not like Allison was saying, I don't do a reactive spell right then. That's not what I'm going to do. Let's call it like a punishment spell, right? I'm not going to do magic that's going to like send out. The magic I would do in that moment would be restorative magic for myself, right? Things to
Right.
help me
Yeah.
release the pain. And so, yeah, I think you can do magic in any state of mind. However, like Kristen was saying, I think, and Ali, I think there are certain types of magic that are more suited for certain states of being. If you did rage magic, like if you were really fucking actively angry and did some rage magic, it probably fucking work. Like, I don't know that you'd be happy with it later, but like, well, truly, too, there's been times when I've been so actively hurt that I've thought I've wanted to do like a baneful spell. That was what I was looking for. That's like punishment. And then by the time I've sat with my emotions, I've been able to absorb it for a while and have treated myself to some restorative magic. And being the type of person I am, I generally want to send that same person healing magic by the time I'm done. That's how radically it changes the
Yeah.
perspective of my spell. Now, not that that's what's going to happen every time, obviously, but I just mean there's the potential for that once you sit with it. And so you don't want to, I shouldn't say you don't want to, but I don't like to act while I'm still actively in my emotion. I like to have it a bit more processed so that, again, I can tell that I'm going to be happy with the results of the spell if I get what I'm asking for.
Should spells be repeated? I think absolutely. Some spells are necessary to repeat. For me personally, I repeat a lot of like energy boosting or like mental health or like balancing, calming things, right? I do a lot of things that support self with like peppermint, sage, lavender, things like that, like in the bath, in the shower. Money spells are often repeated, for example, things like that. If you're repeating a spell because it's not working, in your opinion, I feel that's a different story.
I think that I have certain spells I repeat every day just because it's part of my process. Like I said, calling in my energy, going through like cleansing, meditations, all this kind of stuff. And like every day, if I'm doing good, sometimes it's not every day, but like when I'm trying to do my routine, right? But then there are some types of things that if I do it and it doesn't go the way I want it to go, I think it's important that you wait before you return to doing that spell, but not arbitrarily waiting and just being like, well, it didn't work this full moon, so I'll try the next one. Because, and sometimes I guess that could be what it takes. But I feel like the time you spend waiting is the time you would spend divining and trying to figure out why it didn't work. Because a lot of times it's because something's up. Like either you've got a blockage related to what you're trying to do, and so you need to like do a clearing or like a path clearing like type spell before you do it, or sometimes it'll be that you don't have your intention right. Either way, that say it for the 100,000th time on the show. But that's why it's good to take notes if you are up to it, because then when you go to through this process, you will have everything written down. You won't be working from memory and being like, what was it the thing that I felt like worked so well the last time I did this? And it's a lot. And I know I love the journal. Love.
I really think it depends on the spell. Like it really depends on the spell. So I do a lot of things daily, and I think I've said it many times on the podcast, where every morning I put my intention into my coffee. If I wake up a little grumpy, then I'm going to try and focus on like, what it is to get that grump away and bring in some sunshine. Maybe I really want to be productive, so I'm going to put some of that into my, that way I'm drinking my intention. There are some things that I think no, they don't need to be repeated, or at least not repeated the exact same way. Because either you didn't get the intention dialed in enough, it didn't work quite the way you wanted it to, then yeah, go ahead and redo it, change things. If it worked super great, do the thing again. I tend to more, I don't repeat a lot of spells. I kind of just do them. And then the ones that I want to keep, like my spell jar that's in the cabinet, and I go to, if I'm like, oh, okay, this is done, it's done its work, I release, and then I'm like, oh, I want to do a spell. I just kind of do it, a- I do it again, but I don't do it the same way. It's almost like it's just a intention based each time because yes, it may have worked, but then sometimes I might have to adjust a little aspect of it to be able to get what I need now, not what I needed 6 months ago. I don't know. Is that repeating a spell or is that making up a whole new spell? Like take from it, I guess, as you will, but I think there's nothing wrong with repeating a spell and there's nothing wrong with not repeating a spell.
We've been traveling together down a dark path. Now it's time to take a break and listen to some of our sponsors. A Dark Path will return after these messages.
Needing guidance on your dark path? Explore the mysterious world of Jupiter's Omens, offering handmade rituals, spells, and tools to focus your intention during spell work, vintage altar tools and decor, and intuitive tarot sessions utilizing claircognizance. Visit Jupiter's Omens, where the mystical and macabre meet, at jupitersomens.square.site. That's jupitersomens.square.site. Light the way on your dark path with Wise Wolf Craft's unique selection of tools for living with intention. From manifestation kits to altar items and divination tools, we have everything you need to connect with your inner wisdom. Wise Wolf Craft offers Reiki and other energy healing sessions, divination readings, and a variety of classes on topics like intuitive tarot and personalized spell work. Unleash the power within. Visit Wise Wolf Craft today online at wisewolfcraft.com and on Facebook and Instagram as @WiseWolfCraft. Wise Wolfcraft, tools for living with intention.
Should spells be done alone or with other people?
Yes.
Yes, right? That's such an interesting question. I feel it really depends on what you're comfortable with. In general, I think the feeling is the more practitioners you throw at a spell, the more powerful it is. I feel that if you're taking the time to like fully craft a spell by yourself, that it's gonna have just as much capability as something that has like five people behind it personally. Because you've totally infused it with like your heart, your essence, your intention from beginning to end. That being said, I do love me group spells. I like to do group spells at like moon circles that I host at Jupiter's Omens. I like to do group spells with friends, but the intention there is that it's for the group. It's not for me, and then all of my friends are supporting me in this spell. No, no, no. It's for everybody. So keep that in mind too. But other than that, I don't know that it really matters. That's just my personal preference.
Because I do Reiki and I'm a Reiki witchy, I
Yes.
often ask people to do spells specifically for one person where only one person benefits from the energy.
Yeah.
Right. And people know what they're doing
Yeah.
at the beginning. It's not like I bring people in and we're like, we're going to do some magic. We're going to do a group spell. Everyone's going to enjoy
Mhm.
themselves. But secretly, it's only going to be Heidi.
So,
Like,
yes. So I have had like people who've wanted to do spells at the end of circles, and then it's been, oh, well, if you want to stay at the end to help do the spell, know that it's for this person or for these two people or whoever was who did it, right? And then, you're just assisting your energy, right? And your intention to the jar or to the charm, right? That we're infusing. And then the other method that I do is like group spells where like everybody gets to benefit, everybody puts something in, right? Like the one we did at your birthday, right? Where it was like a group prosperity spell and we all put something in and we all gain something from that. That's the method that I definitely prefer when working in a group. But yeah.
see, and I tend to, because you and I are just this how we function a lot of times, but I tend to prefer the other. I tend to prefer to use the group's energy to focus on one person.
Fascinating.
Yeah, but again, it's just a method of using magic. So for me, it's like, and then again, how it's different for everybody, but in my head, how I always think of it is it's like when we do group magic and we all enter energetically and then we all gain energetically, that's a one-to-one exchange, which is
Mhm.
good, but is very similar to performing magic on your own in some level because you are giving and like it's again that one-to-one exchange. One of the cool things about a group is that you can bypass that one-to-one exchange by having more people who are willing to enter energy into the equation, right? So that's why I like to do things like have 10 people sit down and put energy into the grid at the same time. So we're all focusing in one place. Have 10 people sit down and I say put energy into is very vague, but that can be a
Mhm.
variety of different spells, right? It could be protection, it could be a banishment, it could be like whatever. But in truth, it's usually healing for me too, because that's what I am. I'm a healer. That's what I like to do, right? Yeah, I like to use it like a magnifying glass in the fucking
Yeah.
burn-ins, but
This
like
is a philosophy
spiritual embodiment.
conversation because I
That's why I
use
love
it.
talking to you.
Yeah, this is exactly because I use it exactly how I see community, right? Whereas if we all work together to build each other up, then we all benefit, right? So that's why I
Mhm.
prefer to do group prosperity or group abundance spells, right? Is because we're all putting something in and focusing our energy together to grow together
Yeah,
rather
and I
than
think
10
there's
people putting something into the grid as a magnifying glass, which is cool. I respect it, right? That's just, I feel that the other way for me is more beneficial, right?
I
Not
could see
any,
stability there too, like of
yes,
having that be a very stable, like could definitely see the benefits of both methods.
yes, exactly. Right. No shade. No shade. I love it. And I love that we agree and disagree and respect each other. Yeah, that's a really interesting. It's not even
Well,
that we disagree. It's just that we have,
no, it's just how we have
yes,
different approaches. Yeah,
yes.
totally. And that's
I
one of
love
the
it.
reasons I like working with you, actually, because I feel that we say this all the time, but I feel like we have similar yet complementary styles, right?
Mhm.
So it's like we have a relatively similar way of thinking about things, but we don't approach things similarly. And so our styles tend to complement each other opposed to just being repeats of the same things, even though they'll be in the same wheelhouse.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's very exciting. And now I'm extra excited to hear what Kristen has to say. She's going to be like, oh, it's nothing special. But like, I'm
And
super
blow our minds.
excited. I know. I'm so excited to hear what Kristen has to say about it.
Until I met you guys, I've always done spells by myself.
Yeah.
So it's a very new thing to me. I think it really comes down to what the spell is, what your intention is.
Hmm.
Because if everybody in a group is not on the same page or the same understanding, then that can kind of cause things to get a little wonky. I mean, maybe feel uncomfortable. I mean, there's a lot of different things that kind of maybe the intention isn't set well enough so that the working that you're doing doesn't do anything. It might just not be the thing. So I don't think there's a should. I think that they can be done alone and they can be done with other people.
So now I'm really curious, like interpersonally, because I'm a nosy Nelly. So like when we get together and do like magic stuffs together, right? Like we do like Sabbat celebrations or like we'll get together casually and do like manifestation sheets and things like that, right? Do you prefer doing that stuff alone or do you prefer doing that stuff like together? And then do you think that that spell work would be more beneficial with more people or do you think that it doesn't matter? I'm kind of curious now.
So for me personally, I like getting together and doing those things because sometimes it's questions or it's
Because we
am I
just
putting the
chat while we
shine
do
off?
it.
Yeah, sometimes it's like things that I wouldn't normally think of, or things that like I might not have thought of doing it that way, or I never have done it that way. So now I get to learn this cool new thing. So I like that aspect because then your spell work's different than my spell work is different than Heidi's spell work. And if we all get together, then we can take a piece of each of ours to make it our own personal thing.
Yeah.
And that is something that you cannot gain if you're working by yourself. You're not going to get the additional energy. You're not going to get the additional collaboration. So I feel like there's a benefit to that. It also kind of gives me a little bit of a boost too, because like if I'm at home and I'm like, I'm not feeling as hot and I should probably do like a meditation or a spell, more often I'm going to be like, nah, I'm fine. But if I'm with somebody else, then it's like that accountability, like, girl, no, we got to do this. Like, let's help you feel better. Let's get to the root of this, and
Yeah.
then I'll be more inclined to do it. Little of this, little of that. It also depends on who it is. I think that's also a huge thing too, because if you're not comfortable, if you're not able to open up energetically, then no, spell work isn't going to work in a group.
Yeah. So you feel like the energy has to be like on, not necessarily on point, but like jive enough.
I mean, if there's somebody that I wouldn't tell a story to about my life or tell a personality quirk about myself, I'm not going to share energetic work with them. I'm not going to
Yeah.
do a magical spell. That is
Yeah.
too vulnerable for me. And then on top of that, I feel like if our intentions aren't aligned, then it's just going to blow up. And I always feel like it part of my trauma as well, because if I don't know someone or if my energy doesn't match, then I don't know what they're going to do and I don't know if I'm safe.
Yeah. Thank you. I was curious. And also, I feel like that's some good tidbits, Kristen. Thank you. Are there certain types of spells that should not be cast? There are certain people in this world who do very bad things, and I will do like cute little curses under my breath. Like, I hope they choke on their spit today and it makes them a little scared. I hope they trip on their shoes and it embarrasses them at the mall. So, knowing that, I don't necessarily believe that there are certain types of spells that should not be cast. Now, do I think you should run around trying to kill people? No. But at the same time, there's nothing that's like really off limits, I guess. Just know the weight of it. So that's kind of my attitude. What about you, Heidi?
I think it has to do with the individual, which is something I say all the time. But like, so for me personally, there are certain types of spells I shouldn't do, but it's because it doesn't align with me personally, right? Like, it's not that you shouldn't do them or that other people in general shouldn't do them, but like, it's just something I shouldn't do. But it's all about how, how it makes you feel. Like, I do almost no magic that overrides other people's free will. That's a hard stop for me.
So, like, what does
Now I
that
do.
constitute? Because, like, I think, did we talk about this in the planning episode? Like, because
Did a
I'll do
little bit.
banishments for behaviors of people, right? So, do you
Mhm.
consider that?
Maybe a little. So for me, I just find that kind of magic isn't very effective for me a lot of times. The kinds of magic that work the best are things that have to do with me. What I tend to do in that same situation is I would have my spell would work more along the lines of I'm going to change my vibration so that people who treat me in XYZ way are no longer allowed in my space. So then it's not really about one person. It's not really about even the negative behavior as much as it is about me raising my vibration and people who treat me with a certain level of respect being in my. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like I try to use positive present language and then also or present tense, right? Positive present tense language and then like it's already happened.
Like, I'll do behaviors or like intrusive thoughts, whether they're behaviors of other people, myself. So, like, it just depends on the situation. So, I'll do both.
So now if someone asked me to do a spell on them, that's different. Yeah. But like if I'm having a bunch of turmoil with a specific individual,
Yeah.
opposed to me being like, I need this individual to stop this behavior and having that be the base of my spell. My spell would be more along the lines of I need my vibration to change so that this person is no longer attracted to me or this energy is no longer attracted to me.
Hmm.
Because it puts me in control and it makes it so that it's not giving that problem or that person any more power energetically than they already have. But that's again, it's so important how your brain works and how you think about things because that's why it works certain ways.
I'll do a banishment on a behavior for another person, let's say, for example, in case they're interested. And then I'll use that spell as a banishment. So it's an exorcism, right? So I'm sending that behavior away. And then I'll do that in order to give me the self-confidence to then set the actual boundary with that person, right? This behavior, you can't treat me like this anymore. And then what happens, happens. But I do the spell first in order to gain personal self-confidence and then set the boundary in person.
I don't think that there are certain types of spells that should not be cast. I feel like there's certain types of spells that maybe on a moral standpoint you might not want to do. What I mean by that is I am not the type of person that's going to make a voodoo doll and, stab it and make this other person feel like pain type of a thing. Now, I may make puppets and things to help like them see the truth or help their words be more truthful or clear or, like things like that. But I feel like anything that's going to, it's hard to say pain because even good change can be painful. But like something that's actually going to be an intent to harm somebody is not a spell that I would cast. Yeah, I don't, it just really comes down to the person and it really comes down to your own moral compass because things that I may not do would be things that other people might do. I just don't feel that there's a reason to hurt someone just because you've been hurt or to get even or things like that when I could use that energy to just remove them from my life or to remove that energy from my life or to change that energy. If you can't change this, then you're no longer welcome in my life. And I like how you said that
Yeah.
with, Allison, with setting the boundary and then going to the person because how is a person gonna know that they're frustrating you with such and such thing if you don't say something? I think that there are spells that are maybe not the greatest to do. Should they not ever be cast? That's not my call to make, but that's also not the path that I'm on. Do my ingredients have to match my intention? This is going to be a weird way to say it. No, they do not have to match your intention. However, your intention is going to pick out the ingredients, so they're going to match anyways.
I'm not high enough for this. You just blew my mind. What the fuck?
So,
It's intuition. If you follow your
yeah.
intuition when you're picking your ingredients, they're probably gonna end up lining up and being fine for what you need.
Oh,
I felt like was what you were
exactly.
saying.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely it. Yeah. I mean, there's some days where I'm like, I'll be cooking and I'm like, I need something. I need something. And then I'll look at my spices and I'll be like, this is it. And then I'll throw it in there. And like later I'll go back and be like, oh, that's what time's for. I really needed that, apparently. So I don't think they have to match, but I think they kind of always do.
If you feel like you have to know what the traditional meanings are, or else it's not going to be effective for you, then you're probably right. I
Right.
mean, it's all about how much you believe, how much energy, how much intention, right? And if you're like, if it's rose, it says rose, and I don't have rose, and it's not going to work, then again, then that yeah, that energy's there. That's real. I feel like that's not how it works for me. And I love the idea of your personal correspondences holding priority above traditional correspondences. I
Hell
think
yeah.
it shows knowledge of magic, knowledge of self when you are in, and I would even argue now let's go real far.
Oh, whoa, slow down.
The
Hang on.
specific
Buckle up.
plant, the specific rock. I'm not talking like rose. I'm talking about this particular rose I got from my sister-in-law's garden that is yellow and has 40 petals or whatever, right? So like maybe that rose specifically is for a specific type of magic, right? So like there's a lot to it. You have to, I mean, there's especially with plants, there's so much to consider. Where are they growing? How are they growing? How much water are they exposed to? How much sunlight? Did they have to struggle or did they grow and flourish and have a ton of crop? Is their crop super sweet? Can you not eat it? I mean, it's ridiculous, right? So it's like whatever you want to focus on. Am I really starting? How funny. Okay, so my takeaway would just be that spells can be as elaborate or simple as you like. Just follow your intuition. Um, and I say be creative, have fun with it. Don't do anything you're not comfortable with. That's probably my 2 cents.
I would say that there's no reason to place a lot of pressure. It doesn't have to be this like daunting, scary thing that has to be perfect. There's a lot of time to try and rewrite and try again. That's literally the whole life of being a writer. So like doing it in spell work, I would expect the same thing of it, right? So don't expect it to be right the first time around if you're writing an entire spell from scratch, especially as a newbie, right? Play with it and have fun, like Heidi was saying, and explore yourself and explore the craft, and then just expect to tweak it as you grow, right? That's the whole joy of it, is that when you do spells yourself, they can grow with you.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of that. I feel like my main takeaway is that your craft and your spell working, I mean, I hate to use absolutes and things, but like should reflect your personality. It should reflect who you are. If you're more of a order and things have to be done step by step type of person, do it that way. If you're somebody that just wants to run out into a field and start shouting into the universe, then do it that way. Whatever resonates mostly with you is going to be the strongest working and is going to give you the most benefits and the best spell working outcome.
Thank you to our listeners for coming along this journey with us today. You can follow us on Instagram at A Dark Path Podcast. Oh, wait, also you can follow me at Jupiter's Omens.
You can follow me on social media, Instagram at Wise Wolfcraft and Facebook, Wise Wolfcraft.
As always, we're looking to connect. If you have any topics you'd like us to discuss, questions, or want to get to know us, please email us at adarkpath adarkpathpodcast@gmail.com. Again, that is adarkpathpodcast@gmail.com. Join us next time for some of our favorite must-have spells and rituals, and continue this journey with us down a dark path.
It is now that our time together must come to an end. Thank you for joining us on this journey, a dark path come to a bend. Find us here bi-monthly on your favorite place to stream, and follow us on social media for news in between. A dark path is there, winding and waiting ever. May you craft peace, knowledge, and alignment, so shall it be, or something better.